Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Sustainable Makers Award digital ceremony this year because of the pandemic and all the reasons and the current situation we're living across Europe. We are delighted to welcome this afternoon a full panel of experts, specialists, but also the winners of the Sustainable Makers Awards 2020 in partnership with the Worth Partnership Project and also in collaboration with Dutch Design and the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom. I'm Ludovic. I'll be your host for the next hour, and I'm really happy to introduce you to my colleagues across the continent, starting with my colleague in the Netherlands, Country Director, British Council Netherlands, Vibeke Asbjornsen. Good afternoon, Vibeke. How are you?
Hi, Ludovic. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good in Madrid under the sunshine, so I cannot complain actually. Vibeke, one question. We're talking about sustainable makers, we're talking about British Council, but the first question maybe for the majority of our audience, what is the British Council?
Okay, I'll start with that. So the British Council is the UK's international organisation for cultural relations and educational opportunities. So we work directly on the ground in over 100 countries, and what we do is we aim to build connections, understanding and trust between people in the UK and other countries through arts and culture, education and the English language. We connect organisations and individuals to share their insight, expertise and knowledge, which results in bespoke programmes and partnerships that are mutually beneficial. And I'd like to add to that this year is the 75th anniversary of the British Council in the Netherlands, and the British Council globally was established in 1934.
So happy birthday to you, dear British Council
Thank
Netherlands. And tell us a little bit more about the commitment of the British Council with the arts, and especially in that case with the sustainability.
Okay, so as I mentioned previously, at the heart of the work that we do, and so also in the arts, we have the idea of connecting individuals and organisations, which then result in mutually beneficial programmes and partnerships. So we work in many, if not most, fields of the arts. We work in film, music, literature, performing arts, and so on. We aim to be ethical and inclusive in everything that we do. For example, we have a large arts and disability programme, Europe Beyond Access, which we run in partnership with 7 partners in the EU. And today we are here as a result of the work that we do in architecture, design and fashion. We have a number of diverse collaborative projects running at the moment, all with a strong focus on sustainability and all working towards the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, of which number 17, which is Partnerships for the Goals, is where we really deliver significant impact. And I'm sure that my colleague Parvinder will tell us a bit more about our work in design.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Vibeke, for being with us this afternoon. Take care and keep safe in the Netherlands.
Thank you.
Keep to you.
Thank you. You too. We'll speak soon.
Speak soon. Take care. And talking about design, architecture and fashion, we have with us live from London, like in the BBC, with Parvinder Marwaha. She is lead on design, architecture and fashion program manager for EU Europe. Hey, Parvinder, how are you?
Hi, Ludovic. I am good, thanks. Though typically British, I'm going to say the weather is not as good as Spain.
Things happen that way. But you're welcome to come over in Madrid whenever you can and whenever we're allowed to travel yet. Parvinder, one first question. Can you tell us a little bit more about your work in architecture, fashion and design?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vibeke, as well. And thank you, Ludo. So my name's Parvinder and I lead on design at the British Council. I joined a few years ago to curate, programme and commission international projects across architecture, design and fashion. And I lead on our work in EU, Europe and South Asia. I'm developing some of our global programs, including Making Matters, which focuses on circular design. As part of this, I established Circular Cultures, a program which spans 7 countries across EU Europe, including the Netherlands, exploring the language and tools we use to embed circular thinking and creating opportunities for us to share knowledge really and develop new EU networks around sustainability and circularity. Now, in the Architecture, Design and Fashion department, we house a number of other global programs, including commissioning the Venice Architecture Biennale for the UK, a global crafts program called Crafting Futures, which runs in over 20 countries, a program in partnership with Fashion Revolution, which is called Fashion Revolutionaries, and Design Connections, which is our annual delegation program for festival and museum founders and directors from across the globe. So please check us out online, and I know Ludovic will be sharing our details kind of later. But in a second, we'll go into a pre-recorded panel with the jury, which includes Carole, Director of Sustainable Futures at Central St. Martin's, and Richard van der Laken, who's the co-director of What Design Can Do from here in the Netherlands, and myself. We'll discuss some projects and announce the 2 winners, and then we'll transport back into a live panel with last year's winners and this year's. So I'll catch you in about 20 minutes, and I've conveniently worn the same top so that it's a smooth transition. So fingers crossed for the tech. Over to you, Ludovic, for the film. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Parvinder. So I can't wait to reveal the name of the Sustainable Makers Awards 2020. Let's go for it.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've just been transported digitally into this room, and I want to introduce the jury members who have asked to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what lens they came with looking at these applications. So, Carole?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the panel. So my name is Carole Colley. I'm a professor in design for sustainable futures at Central St. Martin's, University of the Arts in London. And I have 2 key roles there. I'm the director of the Design and Living Systems Lab. It's a research group dedicated to research in biodesign and biofabrication. And I'm also the director of Maison Zero, which is a sustainable initiative we've set up in partnership with LVMH 4 years ago. And what you're seeing on the screen now is an indication of a symposium we are collaborating with the British Museum. So I thought it'd be pertinent to show it here. It's a symposium on the 5th and 6th of November, hosted by the Design Museum and in collaboration with the British Council, the Design Museum, the Bartlett School of Architecture at UCL. And it's dedicated to designing with living systems and what can we learn, how we can progress this field in relation to ecology.
Thank you, Carole. Richard?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me in this jury. My name is, again, Richard van der Laken in Dutch. I'm a graphic designer. I have my own design studio here in Amsterdam called the Design Politie, or the Design Police in English. And I'm also the founder and director of What Design Can Do. What Design Can Do is, as I always frame it, a design-driven NGO. We focus on environmental and societal issues and how to tackle them with the power of design.
Thank you, Richard. And I've obviously already introduced myself, but again, I'm Parvinder. I guess I thought I'd give the audience a view into what lens we looked at the applications through. So we looked at innovation and creativity in relevance to sustainability and circularity. We looked at the quality of design of the output or research. We looked at the potential for development and growth and collaboration with the UK. And we also looked at inspiration for the sector. Does it have the potential to create a shift in the industry? And from a wide group of projects, we shortlisted 4 that we all thought were quite strong contenders for the award. And of course, in the end, we're awarding 2, but we thought we would actually go through all 4 and just share our thoughts on why we thought they were really strong projects and where we thought they could develop as well. So I'll just start with the first one that was shortlisted from that, and that was Alka. And that was an 100% recycled polymer rug from plastic bottles. So I guess, should we discuss, why we thought this was a strong project? And Richard, do you want to start why you like this project?
So because I think it's really, really strong. In fact, for me, it stood out immediately. I think that we always, at What Design Can Do, I always say that a very important part of design is the seductive power of design. So how are you able to use design to bring something to the table and seduce and convince people? And I think that here, this was something that immediately stood out in this project. So whatever the story is behind it, you immediately are seduced by the beauty and the inventiveness of the design itself. So you really want to know more as soon as you see it. It invites you to dive into the story behind those rugs. So that was the first thing that struck me. So when I started to read it, I also found out some more things that I thought were really, really interesting. So, for example, the rugs are made out of leftover plastics, which of course is extremely important because plastic waste is really a big thing. But I probably don't have to explain that because I think that everybody knows that. But it's not only that; they also offer their consumers a sort of a cradle-to-cradle system. So what we sometimes missed in other projects is that this project is really looking at how can we make things circular. I don't think they are there yet, but they are working on it, and that was something that I thought is really important because at the end of the road, it's so important that you also get a close relationship with your clients, consumer, and I think this is a good opportunity to do that. So that's also something that I like very much.
Thanks, Richard. And Carole?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this project just does not compromise on aesthetic. And I think that's still important, sadly, today to see new ideas, new proposals to do with sustainable design that actually do not shout, I'm eco-friendly or I'm sustainable. So I think that was one of the strengths of the project, but also in terms of circularity, this is a proposition for a mono-material approach. Which means it's much easier to upcycle or recycle at the end of this product. Too often, I think we see projects based on the idea of recycling, but then they make a new material which consists of so many different materials, it then becomes difficult to recycle and upcycle again, therefore is not really fully circular. This one can be fully circular. And it's also looking at digital printing, which is a huge water saving in terms of the dyeing and printing in the textile industry, which is really catastrophic. So this is looking at the best option in terms of color application.
Thanks, Carole. And from my perspective, I think I totally agree with you guys. It had a very strong visual and design output. So it scored quite highly for us on that. And I really like the term that they used, this kind of graphic plastic language, looking at new languages and how we actually look at aesthetics. I also really liked what you were referring to, Carole, about this kind of waterless production, which I think is really important. And we see that through a lot of the projects that we scored quite highly, actually, that they really looked at their production process and where water and pollution sat within that. So there's some of the things that I enjoyed. What I also think we discussed when looking at this project was the potential for development and growth that could be across countries, that kind of cultural nuance, that a rug is and a carpet is a very everyday product that we could really see would make a difference and an impact in everyday lives. That was a point that we mentioned. And I think the potential for collaborations felt quite strong here, whether that was with NGOs or if you broadly look at organizations looking at plastic waste from the ocean, there was a lot of potential that we saw with this project to develop. So I think that was for Alka, those were the kind of strong points that we felt. Moving on to the next one then that we shortlisted was Maritech. And maybe Carole, you can start by talking a little bit about what you found great about this.
Well, this was actually highly original, really looking at how we can start sourcing raw materials from what's provided by a tidal. risen. And so looking at what the sea brings to us and all those extra raw sediments which are currently unused could become really interesting. And indeed with Maritech, they have already tested them. And they're combining digital fabrication, 3D printing together with harvesting rhythmic tidal materials, which we thought was a very original approach, but also combines 3 designers, 3 makers from 3 different cultures and 3 different countries. And we really liked the idea of to bring all their different skill sets, their different expertise together, but also their different cultural values together. So mostly we felt it was really highly original and highly pertinent.
Thanks, Carole. And I guess just to mention that this kind of project was to do with architectural applications to sedimentary materials, and you've gone into a bit of detail about what that is. But Richard, why did you find this project interesting?
Yeah, I think that Carole already mentioned the core elements of why this project is so interesting. But I would like to add one thing, which I think is also very important. It maybe connects a bit what I just mentioned about seductive power of design. I think that this project is also, I would say, about poetry. So it really engages you. You could say that the ocean takes and the ocean gives, and that's here translated into something that is really urgent and relevant. So I think that's also important to mention that there, in that sense, in the communication, in the storytelling, you can also. It's important that you focus on that to convince people in the project that you develop, and I think they succeed here very well.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, I remember when we were talking about this, and we did feel like it was a very poetical kind of experience, highly digital and technical in one way, but also really had that kind of grounding. One of the collaborators, she even calls herself, the craftswoman of the sea. And I think they've tried to integrate this language that I think is really exciting. And what I found great about it was, obviously similar to you guys, I found it great that it was a collaboration between 3 different countries, which were France, Denmark, and Spain, but also 3 different design disciplines, looking at kind of material design, looking at digital fabrication. So that was really exciting, and architecture. I also found it great to have a project here which looked at that scale, because obviously we're looking at the one-to-one prototypes of something, but when you scale it up to an architectural level, I found that there was a lot of potential for development as well and impact with this type of project if it did reach an architectural scale. So moving on to the other project that we kind of shortlisted, it was the collaboration between Fabrique Publique and Coudre, which was called Remake Ceramics and Coudre. And that was about using recycled ceramics in new products and 3D printing. So because it's based in the Netherlands, maybe Richard, you can start about why you like this project.
Oh, why are you asking me this? No, as I mentioned, during our conversations, it's very Dutch, and I say this, of course, because I'm Dutch myself. So it's funny that you immediately recognize it as something Dutch, and so that has to do with the aesthetics, with the approach, with the sort of the simplicity, and yeah, it immediately struck me. So, but I was, of course, in that sense, also really interested in what Carole was thinking about it and what you were thinking about it, because for me it was so recognizable. So I was very happy to see that this was a project that resonated well with the jury. What I think is very strong about it, but of course I also would like to give you the stage to tell a bit more about it, is it's a solid collaboration, and the parties who are involved really have complementary skills, which I think is super important in this project. I was wondering, are they able to scale this up? Can you make this or also commercial and make it make the project fly. As we discussed during our jury meeting, we were all sort of convinced that they should be able to scale this up also with other countries and other cultures and different approaches that opportunities that this project have. Yeah, and of course, I'm always very happy that there's also a Dutch project that stands out.
Thanks, Richard. And Carole?
Well, again, I think this one resonates a little bit with Alka, the first project we've discussed, in that it's a very powerful design, but based on a very, very simple idea, the idea of upcycling ceramic waste. And it might seem strange to some of the audience to think that, yeah, well, okay, it's a simple idea. But however, I just think, well, if it's that simple, why is it that not many designers start with waste? It's easy to say, but still, the majority of mainstream design starts with brand new raw materials which have been extracted somewhere else on the planet. And I think we need to continue to inspire the sector, inspire the design communities to start working from local waste. We've got that in Maritech, we've got that in Malka. And I think the more examples we have, which are really, really beautiful, really well executed in terms of design, the more we have a chance to convince the design community to really start from waste, not as an afterthought, but as a sort of main driver for how they source their materials to work with.
Thanks, Carole. I totally agree. It's almost saying you should use circular principles from the beginning and kind of plan them. And I think that is to do with, circular design. Where it starts is that you've looked at that process, you've designed that process in. And I think this was a really interesting one for me. Again, going on your points, really strong partnerships. And I also said that project is very Dutch, and I lived in the Netherlands for a while, so I could really associate. But again, I thought that was a strength. The kind of collaboration.
Dutch design.
I know, who doesn't like Dutch design, exactly. And Core Unum Ceramics and TU Delft, the collaboration, that was already a real strength here. And I think we saw that potential for there to be future collaborations and have that local nuance. But also what I really liked about the project was it aimed to shorten that production process and look at 3D printing and what that manufacturing process was. So although they were looking at that, they were also looking at the tools to kind of hold this. So I found that an interesting part of this project. And then going into our kind of final one before we announce the winners, the final was Anime and Vienna Textile Lab, and they were looking at garment dyeing using naturally occurring bacteria and wanted to create a capsule collection using these biogenic dyes and sustainable textiles. So Richard, I know you love this project. So, I mean, we all loved the project, but do you want to start?
Yeah, I think you already saw it a bit in the images that just came by. There they are again. Yeah, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but also here it's so important to underline how you present things and how you seduce people with something that looks amazing and fantastic. And when you die, and so that's I think the first thing. Okay, what's happening here? Why does it look like what it looks like? And then you dive into it, and then suddenly you understand when you start reading it that they use bacteria to dye textiles, and that is, I think, super exciting, experimental. It's also part of you could say, part of a movement. They're not the only ones, but that doesn't matter because it's again very important that it happens. And so, in that sense, that you don't in that sense use waste, but use something that already lives. So I thought that was super exciting, and again, when you see the images, they are so intriguing, and so much is happening that you want to know more. And I think that is one of the strengths of this project, that it makes people curious. And next to that, also in terms of collaboration, I thought it was a very innovative collaboration. So that was what stood out for me the most.
Thanks, Richard. And not to put Carole on the spot, I'll just say what I first liked as well about the project. I also thought that it was a strong partnership with having Vienna Textile Lab and that space for research and laboratory work, which is so necessary for this particular project. I really enjoyed, again, I think water was a theme that ran through a lot of them, but that they looked at water and air pollution and to remove the petrochemicals from the dyeing process. I think that was a main contributor to why this project stands out. Some of the interesting things that I felt were the commercialization aspect is interesting, and how to scale this kind of product up. And we know designers who are looking at this in the UK as well. And I think that's an interesting kind of opportunity for bacterial dyeing. And how about you, Carole? How did you see this project?
I think what's interesting for me is that it's not a new idea. It's been done before. Someone like Haizea, who worked with Ginkgo Bioworks, has really pushed this idea. We now have companies in the UK called Colorifix or Piette in France pushing for bacterial dyes. However, I think although it's a very nascent sort of research field, and we're gaining more and more control over how we can dye with bacteria, I believe bacterial dye is way more sustainable than natural dyes or synthetic dyes. And I think the future of any textile printing and dyeing lies in this type of research. And we need more research to understand how do you design with a bacteria in terms of how you control the coloring, the patterning through the coloring. And I think, although it's not a new idea, we need more research in that space. And I think this partnership, in this case, is very pertinent. They're very knowledgeable. They're really exciting. And we felt it was still relevant to really continue pushing how design can lead further knowledge in the field of bacterial dye.
Thanks, Carole. Absolutely. I think we saw in all these projects that some of the collaborations were traditional meets, high tech, but also how science meets design disciplines and how they're so close in terms of those collaborations. And I think just to say that another few markers that we looked at were social and community kind of impact or input, and also that strong sense of collaboration and with other disciplines and countries. And I think we saw that in a lot of these applications. So without further ado, we are going to go and announce the winners. So Carole, do you want to say the first winner, please?
Okay,
and why?
So
Why they had
the first winner is Maritech. And mostly because we felt it was highly original and poetic, and really combines three different experts from three different countries and different cultures. And we felt it was highly inspirational and a really interesting project to see developed.
Thank you, Carole. And Richard?
Yeah, and the second winner is, and of course we now need some drum sounds or something like that. Da-da-da-da. The second winner is Alka, the disruptive rugs. As we already discussed, mentioned today, again, what stands out is the beauty and the super strong aesthetics. And again, also how they deal with the relationship with the consumer. How they deal with plastic waste. All those things that we just mentioned are so important, but first of all, it's a beautiful project, and I would love to have some of those rugs in my room.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I think so would I.
Let's make that happen.
Let's make the rugs happen. But yeah, a couple of other things that came up when we were looking at this as a jury together in the end. I think, Carole, you said, extreme partnerships can lead to really interesting outcomes. So in Maritech, we really saw that in the countries and the collaborations and the cross-disciplinary kind of element. And I think what we really liked about, the Alka project was that kind of everyday living and like association with you know, you could see it as an everyday object, but it was really designed and beautiful, but really had circular principles at its base. So you would choose it also for its design and aesthetic output. We loved that. But underneath that were layers of this kind of circular narrative, which we all feel like we want to promote. So yeah.
And so yeah, congratulations to the new winners of the Sustainable Makers Award. Parvinder, are you happy with the jury, with the selection?
Absolutely, Ludovic. It was great. Carole and Richard were really great. We had great conversations, and honestly, so many of the projects were brilliant, but happy to roll into the panel now to talk to Haizea and Aurore and Mila and Mayya from
Over
last
to you.
year. Thank you, Ludovic, and welcome everyone. I know I have met Mila and Mayya from last year's awards. They were awarded the Sustainable Fashion Award. So I'm going to start with them and ask Mila and Mayya, you know, in a minute, can you kind of describe your practice to us, please? Mayya. Oh, Mayya mute. It's on mute, I think.
Yeah, this always happens, right? So I have a startup based on circular economy in Amsterdam, and for the World Partnership Project, we were researching in partnership with Lena Fashion Library, which is a rental boutique here in Amsterdam, and with Greenbus Amsterdam, on how to design circular products that are optimized for rental systems. So we tested two textiles, one from pineapple fiber, so pineapple waste, called Piette, and another textile made out of recycled PET bottles. And we tested them in laboratory settings to kind of assess their durability. And at the same time, I was researching on what would be the best compositions and design and techniques that would be most suitable for reuse and intensive cleaning process and wearability. So that's kind of what we did with the World Partnership Project.
Thank you, Mayya. It was so nice seeing you early this year, pre-pandemic. And Mila, can you tell us a little bit about Tauco in 1 minute, please?
Yes. Hey, so I'm Mila. We have a Finnish women's wear brand called Tauco, and for the World Partnership Project, we wanted to explore the possibility of using old healthcare textiles for fashion production. So basically this means that we used old bath linen or tablecloths that come from the big textile rental companies that they cannot offer anymore to their clients. And we wanted to find out the ways we can process them with using as little natural resources as possible. And we created this capsule coat design, which would be also promoting like timeless design, slow fashion in the sense of having multiple uses and many layers for different weather conditions. And we worked together with an Estonian sewing company to accomplish our project.
Thank you, Mila. Bringing in the winners of this year for the Sustainable Makers Award, welcome Aurore, who's representing Maritech, and also Haizea from Alka. Can you also describe your work in a minute, please? I'm keeping time. Aurore, okay, maybe you can...
Yeah? Yeah. Sure. So first, thank you for this award. So as you already said, I'm a designer, sustainable designer, and also self-proclaimed craftsman of the sea. So for the project Maritech, I'm the project leader, and with my team, we have been developing some architectural elements that are made from sedimentary materials that are currently waste from the Atlantic Ocean on the French coast. And we're using 3D printing technology because this technology is a zero waste process. Our idea is to bond different approach in design, leading to an innovative project with sustainable material and innovative technology, 3D printing. And the idea is to create the neo-craft, meaning what is going to be craft in a close future.
Thank you, Aurora. I love it, the neocraft. And Haizea from Alka.
Hello, I'm Haizea. My background is related with arts and illustration and design. And I share this partnership, my partner, with Hamdi Generer. He has a strong background in rag industry. He's the third generation of he was surrounded all his life around rags. And yeah, this project, it's like a brand articulated as a small capsules. We do not only want to make racks, we want to make unique pieces surrounded by a concrete concept and aesthetics. And so we started this new adventure, thanks also for Worth project, from the need to express and to create and to produce currently with our values. And also as a research to explore ways of expanding the graphic possibilities as a fusion between art and design. And yeah, this first capsule is produced in hand-woven, high-quality recycled and recyclable polyester, as we have mentioned before. I share with Carole this focus on the importance of monomaterial to be recyclable, and I share with Richard how important is the use of aesthetics and beauty to move and to communicate projects, and with you, Parvinder, that sometimes we don't need complex things. We just need everyday objects. So yeah, mainly this is our project.
Thank you, guys. We've got 4 of you online, so there's a lot to cover. Thank you so much. And I'm going to rapidly go into the questions, and maybe everyone can touch upon a few here and there. I mean, the first one is, can you ever really make something entirely circular?
May I start?
Any of you? Yeah, sure.
In our case, we are looking to be circular. We are looking to make some kind of cradle to cradle. We cannot ensure that the PET that we use will be used again for doing a rag, but we can ensure that this PET could be recycled. So this carpet maybe will be in another life, floor covering or shoe soles or plastic bags or whatever, but it could be recycled. And yeah, but I think that the main part here maybe is not destroying the rag to do another rag, is maybe try to find ways to channeling this into another kind of business idea, or, for example, to reprint or over dyeing or making a second life for the rag in my case, and exploring C2C selling channels to make this process, the life of the product, longer.
Thank you, Haizea. Mayya, what do you think? Because you're working a lot with services as well and materials.
I think with circular economy, there's so many different ways, so many different approaches to it, I suppose. So it could be either using a material that is recycled or recyclable, or, for example, in these cases with these projects with monomaterial. For example, in my career at the moment, I'm more focused on a sharing economy and giving lives in a different way. So I think it's about finding all the combinations between them, and it's not as black and white, I suppose, as it sounds, maybe. I think that's more my take on it.
Definitely. Thank you, Mayya. I really like that you're all from very different backgrounds. So last year's award focused on sustainable fashion and the textile industry. And this year we've got product design and architecture. To any or all of you, what's the value of interdisciplinary design for you? Aurore?
Yeah.
Aurore, because you're working 3 countries and 3 different design disciplines. So
yeah, that's true as well. I think that also from my master degree in Central St. Martin School, Material Features MA, we learned to work with other people from other disciplinary. So I guess that's already in my approach of design, of making. In my former project, I've been co-working with craftsmen or engineers. And from that, I've learned that together, by bonding different knowledge, we can have a common goal leading to a meaningful project. So I think it's very important to learn from others and to have a meaningful team.
It kind of came up in our jury selection that we felt that it was very valuable that we, to work across countries, and you've all worked with other countries and cultures. Why is this important for you, Mila?
To work with different countries
and cultures,
I think, well, we worked with this project with Estonia, which is kind of a neighboring country to Finland. So I think culturally, maybe there's not so much of a difference in that sense, but I think it helps. Well, there came up some things during the time, like I think compared to, now I go to very, very details and talk about only kind of from my perspective, but we had these conversations with the sewing company that we work with, for example, about this like reusage of different items and recycling and all these things. And what they said is like after the Soviet times, somehow there was so big urge for people to find the new stuff, and they just kind of got into that. So the newest, the one that glitters the most, the one that shines the best and furthest is kind of the one that you want to get. And there was not this kind of value for having something that is already used, what we then again in Finland might have had. And I think these were kind of interesting discussions, just to give you some kind of a little example, even though like being very like neighboring countries and having kind of similar histories and similar culture.
Thanks, Mila. I guess Aurore being part of Maritech, that's the interesting one, is that that you guys are live right now working from different countries, right? So how does that work for you, and why did you choose to do, you're working across France, Denmark and Spain? Is it because you met, or do you add your cultural kind of nuance to your work as well?
So I guess the starting point was the material itself, since I'm specialist in this approach of design from the material. And then I was wondering how technology could have an impact in the making process and what is craft going to be in the close future. And I've been looking at WASP company production and projects. So I contacted them, knowing that I wanted to propose my project to WASP project this year. And they were very happy to exchange with me, but quite busy. So they told me just contact our hub in Madrid. So that's what I've done. And since then, I'm in contact with Gianluca Pugliese, and he was very happy and intrigued by the project. So he's very involved in it. And on the other hand, so we are working on 3D printing, so we needed some technical experts, but also it's a project about architecture. So I knew some projects that have been working on Roberto Naboni, who is Italian but working in Southern Denmark University. So I contacted him, and same, he was very intrigued by the project, and together, the three of us, I guess we aim to bond our different knowledge to have a common project that is meaningful. So yeah, that's how it went.
Thanks, Aurore. And how have you found that working across different countries? How do you do that? Like you have different time zones, technology, systems, languages. How's that been for you?
So the language, hopefully we all speak in English, so that's fine. Everybody has his own accent, but that's it. Otherwise, it goes quite well. We have a proper schedule with meetings every month and we share our visions of the project and how we all work on it. We split the work, but the shame of this year is the current sanitary situation. So we don't have the possibility to meet in direct contact. And I will be very happy to go in Madrid and see Leopold's lab, but for now it's not possible.
Thanks. And I guess maybe the core of one of my questions is, what was the motivation that you guys wanted to explore circularity in your work? Haizea.
Well, first of all, my motivation maybe was not finding a circular business model, was more related with simply find a way to amplify my graphic expression or my graphic possibilities or creative exploration. But when I was starting to find out how to do it, I completely become aware about the importance about doing something the best way you can do it. So that's why I started researching and finding different solutions from different projects, brands, and so on. So even my background is not so related with this kind of process. I think that now it's mandatory to find out ways of doing things better. It's like a must for any product that it's going out in the market. So yeah, maybe it was not my motivation, but it is the only way to do it.
And Mayya, I'd love to hear from all of you guys actually for this question. What was the motivation to either switch to, circularity or start from that point? So maybe Mayya, you can.
Well, I've been working in circular economy for quite a while, so it didn't start with the Worth Partnership project. But I kind of felt that for a while I was more focused on the design part, so how to design a circular product from, for example, waste, or how to design a fashion that can kind of go back into the loop. And I think now I'm more interested in systems, so I'm kind of feeling that maybe it's not enough to only think of design techniques, but also how can you implement this in new economies. So I think this is what I was most interested to explore, because before that I was more in design, and this kind of gave me the opportunity to research something new, which I found kind of really interesting. So I'm going into that direction also a bit more now.
Thanks, Mayya. Mila?
Interestingly, so we started the company 10 years ago, 12 years ago already. And me and my partner who started the company, we have our background is actually in humanistic science. So we studied art research. But I think both of us were unhappy of like how the academic world is kind of slower in doing the changes. So we wanted to do something that has more direct effect on the society. And this is kind of how we ended up working with fashion, also not finding the kind of finding it very tricky, the whole fashion industry and how it works, the whole system level, not just the materials, but how we consume the fashion and what kind of items are produced, what is the image of fashion, like what is the female image that this pushes. There are so many little things that we wanted to kind of be part of and change. So that's
and Aurore. Thank you.
I will say that first, my first graduation was, I was in fashion design before, and from that field I learned quite a lot about waste and all the system that is behind it, and this is why I changed my approach of design, and I've been to St. Martin's Material Pictures MA, and from that I've been developing and sustainable design approach, and I guess I wanted to become an actor of the change, but as an actor you need to take your responsibility and propose your own project and develop them, and hopefully Worth and some organizations help to go on this way to make the change that we need currently in this design field.
Absolutely. I hope so, Aurore. We're here to kind of support you. And I know Ludovic is going to go into more how the award will support that in terms of, a sustainable kind of study tour to the UK, whether that's digital or physical. And I know that Mila and Mayya, you got to kind of experience some of that support from Worth Partnership Projects. And I guess to wrap up, this is such a short panel. We took too long in our jury selection, but Mila and Mayya, how has it been for you guys this year with, the Worth Partnership support and British Council? How have you kind of developed your projects?
Okay, I'm gonna go then. So, for me, it's been really interesting. I really liked our trip to London. I think it was really nice to meet everyone and see all the different projects that are happening at the moment. And when it comes to the project with the Worth Partnership, right now I'm more developing a new project out of it. So it's not so it's kind of. It developed, and then now I think I want to take it further. So now I'm looking more at systems and softwares, and I have a project that I'm developing with a software company in Amsterdam, and I'm seeing where this leads. So that's the news.
Cool. I'm excited to hear more about it. And Mila?
I really enjoyed our trip in London as well. I think it was very nice.
Highlight.
Yeah, that was the highlight. Yeah. And also like meeting up with others and seeing what others are doing, giving context to kind of what you're doing, that you're not kind of like, there are so many amazing projects that you never hear about. So I think this was one of the really big things, that you're not doing your own thing all by yourself. During the year, then we presented the project at the Paris Fashion Week and Berlin Fashion Week. Then we were part of the Salon. So it's been out and going, and now it is being like the actual product. It's being sold in our online store and via our retailers, and also on our 2 stores in Helsinki. So I think and of course, as Mayya also, I think we are also developing from that. So it's going forward as well.
Thank you, Mila. I mean, I'm really excited, and I know it's been a short panel discussion with 4 of you here, but what's exciting is that I think with Worth Partnership Project and also the British Council, it's all about networks and building communities really, and supporting you guys. And I think even though you guys are from last year's cohorts, Aurore and Haizea, you're from this year, I hope you guys can still link and actually share knowledge. Maybe there's potential collaborations in the mix, but I think for us it's really important that people get the opportunity to collaborate, also to meet each other, even if it's a stint online now that we've done this strange tech kind of panel going in and out of rooms. But I'm quite excited about where these partnerships will go. And I'm going to hand it over to Ludovic now, because we've got about 4 minutes, and he's going to wrap up with a kind of final note and say a bit more about the award. And I really hope that we can have you here in London next year. But if not, we're going to do something digital for sure. That will be just as exciting, I hope. So thank you, everyone, for joining. And I'll hand back over to Ludovic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to the winners of this Sustainable Makers Awards. Congratulations, Parvinder, and thank you so much to all participants in this panel. As you mentioned, Parvinder, the Sustainable Makers Awards means for our winners a special mentoring session and training with the best experts in the UK, in order to develop, expand their projects overseas, but also in the continent, and also a study tour to the UK to meet the best companies, designer, creative people from the creative industry in the UK. That would be online, probably, considering the current situation, but we keep you in touch on our website. With no further ado, I would like to thank you, all our partners on these initiatives. Of course, the Worth Partnership Project for all their supports and their fantastic initiatives, fostering collaboration across Europe. Also with the Dutch Design Week, we have a fascinating program ahead for all this week. And also the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office from Great Britain, from the United Kingdom. Nothing more for now. We are just limit time with 1 hour. You have more information about all our design, architecture, and sustainability available on our website, design.britishcouncil.org. With no more to add to this, congratulations to the winner, and we keep in touch on social networks and for further adventures online. Keep safe. Bye-bye.